We all knew this moment was coming.
And what should I call you?
Daddycop!
Hey everyone, Queen of Penguins back for another review of Miraculous Ladybug. We got 2 episodes this weekend, but since I'm only able to get footage from Disney now, hashtag not sponsored, I'm gonna review Daddycop this week and Where Papa's next week, so stay tuned for that. But enough of my upload schedule, let's get to the good stuff. So in typical fashion, I'm gonna start with the animation. We get to see a few more of the new designs in motion, that being of the girls in Marinette's friend group. Ollie and Maylene look great. Zoe slays the new look, and Kagami looks good, but I like her hair better as Ryuko. That being said, the design looking more like a jean jacket and skirt than a school uniform fits how much more free and in control Kagami is, which is a really nice touch. Julika almost looks perfect, but the green lipstick is not it for me. We do get a scene with her in no lipstick though, and I wish they just stuck with that. And then, Rose looks almost unrecognizable, in a bad way. The outfit is super cute, but she looks like a kid that got into her mom's makeup and went to town. Honestly, almost every female character in this school is wearing makeup now, and I don't know how I feel about it. Some cases, like Rose's, it feels excessive and unnecessary. Side note though, the girls have such cute PJs, I love them so much. The animation is at its best this episode. The lighting is spectacular, especially during the fight, which takes place during sunset. The choreography in this battle was fun with the different ways Astro Cat and Cosmobug weave around dodging Daddycop's synth lasers, trademark. Speaking of our 2 powered-up heroes, they look great in this animation style. They look really clean and definitely have more glow to them than before, though a lot less sparkle. I especially love the glow-up to Cosmobug's suit. The added black and cleaner design works super well. Lastly, the minor details in this episode look great. For one, when Sabrina's really upset at lunch and talking to Zoe, you can see her eyes are red and puffy and that her makeup is running. Not to mention how she's caressing and ripping up her napkin. It shows her insecurities in a more subtle way that Zoe catches on to. Her eyes get red again when she calls her dad, and it makes you see as an attentive viewer how upset she is. Like in Sublimation, the physicality of Marinette adds to the humor, even if Marinette herself is overreacting to the situation in a way where all the viewers cringe. My favorite Marinette moment was her straight up diving into her room, then parkouring along the stair railing and wall to open the door. Now let's get into the characters this episode. Speaking of Marinette, I get the feeling a lot of people are probably gonna wail on her, claiming it's her fault the mess happened and that she's back to overly complicated plans. And that is somewhat true. Marinette is learning to take things as they are, but old habits die hard, and big, grand gestures are her love language. She loves Adrien and wants to show him how much he means to her, which is why when she heard about this conjunction and the luck it brings, she jumps at the chance to have her 100th kiss here to bring luck to the relationship. Now, regarding finding out that she had planned this at the same time as movie night, she should have realistically tried to reschedule movie night, or explain to Adrien the significance of tonight. Instead, she doesn't communicate very well and tries to multitask, which is the root of this episode's problems. Had Marinette communicated her grievances better to the people around her, there would have been less misunderstandings and Roger may not have been akumatized. But alas, this is Marinette, Queen Clumsy, who thought Sublime leaving the school for her trial had something to do with her, so we should have expected nothing less. This episode was not all doom and gloom for Marinette, however. Ignoring her Adrianisms, she was a good character. After Miss Hound helps her get her scooter to the repair shop, while talking to Tiki at her house, she talks about how great it is that Sabrina is now working for the greater good and how much she's changed. Heck, had she not been head empty only Adrien, she probably would have been extremely welcoming to Sabrina from the start. She was the first one to inspire a positive change in Sabrina, like she did in The Illustrator. As Ladybug, when Sabrina wants to renounce her Miraculous, she reassured Sabrina, letting her know that she's a good person and has changed so much from the previous year. And at the end of the episode, she realizes she was way too focused on her love life and not focused enough on people who truly needed emotional support like Sabrina. We seem to have returned to the formula of Marinette complicates everything IRL only to get her head straight and say all the right things as Ladybug while learning lessons as Marinette. Not the biggest fan because I miss post-derision Marinette, but either way, she's better than she was in Sublimation. While Cat Noir doesn't do much in the fight, this wasn't his episode. Plus, he played the part of distraction and Akuma releaser. Meanwhile, I think Adrien was pretty good in this episode. While Marinette only wants cheek kisses and she's measuring him, he goes along with it. However, he shows how emotionally mature he is, denying Marinette's request for a romantic evening when he knows that her friends are having movie night, even when she says her friends are fine with it because he wants her to put her full and undivided attention on each event. Adrian was always really emotionally mature, and while it breaks her heart a bit, he stuck to his guns and handled the situation maturely. It's nice to see that while he does love and support her, he doesn't always go along with what she's planning. I also loved his interaction with Marinette at the end, where after she explains why she was saving their 100th kiss, he kisses her again, claiming it's 101 before they laugh. They have such good chemistry when Marinette isn't acting like a mess of a human being, and I hope we see more of this kind of connection between them. Zoe was the underrated MVP of this episode. Now, I mentioned in my sublimation review that I like Zoe. I've always liked Zoe, but felt the story never tried to make her interesting past her introduction, despite her potential. They made her seem important, but they didn't make her interesting. Just nice Chloe. But this episode finally plants the seeds for that, and it makes me really excited. Zoe is an empathetic person, and we see this for her interactions with Sabrina. She immediately notices Sabrina is eating lunch alone, and when leaving with the girls, decides to take the time to check in on Sabrina. She gives Sabrina an ear to listen to, and you can see how bad Zoe feels for her when she talks about maybe switching schools. Probably because in a way, Zoe sees herself in her. Zoe comforts her, tells her that she's not Chloe's minion anymore, and reassures her how much courage it took for her to finally leave Chloe. She then goes ahead and tries to adopt Sabrina into the friend group, fighting hard for her to get invited to the girls' sleepover, reminding the girls how Sabrina's actions helped free them from Chloe's wrath, and how she's suffering alone now. Later in the episode, after realizing the misunderstanding and that Marinette wasn't talking about Sabrina when mentioning an unexpected guest, she immediately bolts down to find Sabrina and explain everything to her. In the end, like Zoe told Sabrina, Marinette is very understanding and forgiving to Sabrina after she apologizes, and the group accepts her. And the little wink during the group hug, I love that. I definitely think they're building up a strong connection between Sabrina and Zoe. Whether it's platonic or romantic, only time will tell. Like I said earlier, Zoe probably sees a lot of her former self in Sabrina. We don't know what Zoe was like in New York. What we see in her introduction is her being a nice girl acting like a mean girl around her family. But from what she said, she was acting like all the snobbish rich kids in order to be accepted. In other words, she was most likely acting like what Chloe was like in season 1. The point is, whether Zoe was acting or not, she used to be a horrible person. Eventually, she changed and started being her true self, only to be met by rejection and bullied until she couldn't take it anymore and moved to Paris. Her situation is a lot like Sabrina's in that regard, which is why Zoe fought so hard for her. She knows how hard it is to break away from toxic influences and appeasing people who aren't worth it. And she knows how hard it can be to build yourself back up and make new friends afterwards. Zoe was lucky to meet Marinette when she did, as through Marinette, Zoe became friends with Miss Boustier's class and was able to start over. Sabrina had been Chloe's minion for years, making everyone's life miserable, but she wasn't being her true self, just doing whatever it took to please Chloe, hoping that she'd change one day. When she realized that wasn't gonna happen, she built up her courage and, with Marinette's help, got Chloe and Lila exposed, which was the start of Chloe's downfall and departure from Paris. Now Zoe is being to Sabrina what Marinette was to her and giving her a place to belong. I think the major difference in their situations is the gang have had years of awful Sabrina, whereas they don't know how bad Zoe was in New York, only getting that one day of faked meanness before meeting the true Zoe. The post-credits scene with Zoe in the bathroom running into Ray was intriguing. Ray is either just someone she went to school with in New York, or potentially a brother or half-brother. That last part is just a theory based on the blonde hair and blue eyes, not to mention the physical interaction with Zoe so okay with snatching his phone to delete his video and Ray putting his hand on her shoulder. But most likely, he's just someone who went to her school. Maybe someone she was friends with before she couldn't put up her act anymore. I'm excited to see Zoe's story in this season, as the end of the episode with Ray's fret seems to be leading to an interesting story arc for her. I also think that her bond with Sabrina will be expanded upon for this story, as maybe while some people turn on Zoe for a bit based on what she did in New York, Sabrina will be on her side as she can relate to Zoe's plight. And Zoe went out of her way to help Sabrina at her lowest, so maybe in Zoe's darkest time, Sabrina will be there to support her. But I'm excited for Zoe. I just can't wait to see her finally get more development. We see a bit of Chloe in this episode at the beginning, posting about her life in London and dissing Sabrina without using her name. Her new design has a lot of detail from her hair, to her glasses, to her jacket, which looks like honeycombs. Still holding on to that Queen Bee era. While she claims that everything in London is better than Paris, this could be a front. When posting on social media, most people only post their best moments. As my friend Dylan has stated, social media is a highlight reel. So what Chloe's posting is only her best moments. We don't know if that's how it really is. When Chloe and Audrey left in season 5, Audrey claims that she's going to take control of Chloe's life in London. And Audrey is one of the worst parents in the show, which is saying a lot based on the shit parents this show has. Chloe wasn't happy about moving to London and lost everything when she lost her power. She lost her dad's love, the only person who ever cared about her, and her home. So we don't know if she's being honest or putting on an act to hide her feelings. Will he find out? Who knows? After all, Asterix loves to shit on her. Now to analyze our star of the episode, Sabrina. Sabrina experiencing the fallout and backlash of a toxic friendship is something I think a lot of people can relate with. The episode starts with her watching Chloe's social media post about how life in London is great and how she needs a new minion after Sabrina betrayed her. After Bark encourages her to stop watching these videos of Chloe, Sabrina gets rid of her Chloe drawer and leaves for school. As someone who just got out of a toxic friendship a couple months ago myself, I know the feelings. Wanting to get rid of everything that reminds me of them, checking their social media, looking back on old photos, it's realistic. Like Sabrina said, she loved Chloe, and it took her a long time to finally break away from her. Even though it's been months since Chloe left, it's not easy to move on from a person who you were so close with for years. Sabrina spends this episode trying to find a place to belong after years of being nothing but Chloe's minion. Sabrina's changed and she wants to prove it, but doesn't know how to. After all, she states herself she was mean to everyone, even taking part in Marinette's bullying with Chloe. She doesn't deny that she did anything wrong. She's self-aware that she made the decision to help Chloe, even though she knew that Chloe never truly cared for her and that what Chloe was doing was wrong. That even though she broke away from Chloe, she's paying the price for taking so long to leave and for all the awful stuff she did. However, like Ladybug states, Sabrina has changed. She did break away from Chloe, something that's not easy to do. Now I know Sabrina had multiple outs, like in Evil Illustrator when Marinette tries to help Sabrina stand up to Chloe only to relapse and go back to being Chloe's BFF. However, leaving a toxic friendship is never easy. I would know. You become scared of what life will be without them, whether you're making the right decision, if you'll regret it, what it'll do to the person you're leaving. But eventually, Sabrina had enough and dumped Chloe as a friend. She even became a superhero helping out Ladybug. Sabrina has changed, but not everyone can see it. Ollie and the other girls, minus Zoe, were very unforgiving of Sabrina at first, not wanting to give her a chance, leaving it to Marinette, whose mind was on Cloud Adrian. Even Sabrina has a hard time seeing she's changed, thinking she's still an awful person. But with help from Ladybug, Zoe, and Marinette, Sabrina is able to gain the confidence to suit up and help deakumatize her father, as well as apologize for her past actions, which earns her the friendship of the girls in Marinette's friend group. Something I loved seeing in this episode was Sabrina and Bark's relationship. I love bonds between Miraculous holders and Kwamis. Seeing how Marinette and Adrian's bonds with Tiki and Plag have developed is such an underrated aspect of the show that I adore. So this season, I was excited to see more Holder and Kwami bonds. We've had a glimpse of this seeing how Ollie and Trix interact, but this episode shows us the first of how minor characters and their Kwamis interact. Sabrina and Bark were one I was interested in, seeing as Sabrina's a shy, quiet, and misguided girl, whereas Bark was one of the more logical Kwamis. So these two as a pair was one I was looking forward to seeing. Bark is to Sabrina what Tiki is to Marinette, a voice of reason and a friend when you have none. I loved Bark encouraging Sabrina this episode, like how she told Sabrina to stop watching Chloe videos because she sucks, or how she flashes smiles at Sabrina when she seems down. Definitely a unique pair among Kwamis and Holders. Sabrina's hero costume and civilian form get changed this episode, something I purposely left out in my design section. I did like the old hero costume and wish we saw more of that one as it's cutesy and fun, but this new one screams confidence and growth. The hair isn't the normal Sabrina neat and tidy, rather it's a lot more loose and fierce. I especially love the new hat as it's more detailed and even has a little dog logo on it. The ball also has more detail on it, and I definitely like the mask on this one better than the old one. The old one was a bit too bright, especially on the top half. This one is darker and outlines her eyes better. As for her civilian form, I'm mixed. The outfit is alright, it's very similar to her old one, but with jeans instead of shorts and tights, new glasses, and a different shaped vest and bow. However, the hair is where I struggle. I think Sabrina had some of the prettiest hair in Miraculous, and this new animation really made it look good. But her hair feels too short now. I also feel like she looks like a grandma with no wrinkles. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but with the glasses and the hair, she reminds me of what my grandma would have looked like if she was a kid. But we've only seen it for like 20 seconds, so we'll have to wait and see. Finally, I need to talk about that transformation sequence. I loved it. One really cool detail is she uses her ball as a soccer ball, kicking it around as she transforms, and as she kicks it around, the ball transforms different parts of her body. It's so cool and she looks like she's having a lot of fun. Could be in my top 10 transformation sequences. I always end up talking about Lila in these reviews, but she barely had anything to do with this episode other than causing akumatizations. I did notice her voice filter does seem less noticeable this episode. Like it's just her voice with an evil echo, unlike in previous episodes where it sounds like her voice actually changes. But her manipulation is still top tier. Her first attempt at akumatization is with Sabrina, who, can I mention, even though she was at her lowest and overall an emotional wreck, managed to resist the Akuma, becoming the first person in the new era to resist an Akuma. Based Sabrina actions. Then she akumatizes Officer Roger, and once again, these powers seem not destructive, but helpful to someone in emotional need. Daddycop just has the power to brainwash people into loving Sabrina the way only a father would. Wait, that wording makes it seem like Sabrina's not worthy of love. Wait! His power makes people see Sabrina the way he sees her, in a positive light. In the mind of Roger, whose daughter is struggling to make friends since Chloe left, a power that gets people to like Sabrina would make life better, as all he wants is for his daughter to be happy, and Sabrina just wants true friends. So while not as ambiguous as Sublimation's power, still feels more ambiguous than a Gabriel-era villain. I love how this animation style shows off Lila's physicality with her villains. It's noticeable in other episodes, but this episode really highlights it. In their headspace, each villain in making is sitting in a way that reflects their current state of mind. For example, when Maya becomes the illustrator, she's drawing and she's all sad. When Lila comes in, she kneels down to Maya's level so that they can be face to face. Something I've learned while working with preschoolers is really helpful for communication. Meanwhile, in this episode, when she goes for Roger, Roger is cradling something invisible, symbolizing Sabrina. When Lila's sympathizing with him and convincing him to accept the powers, she strokes the imaginary baby with her finger. I know these details are minor, but they really add to Lila's manipulation skills. The fight this episode was not really much of a fight, more of Astro Cat and Cosmobug weaving to avoid Daddycop's attacks. Even so, it was really well choreographed. The animation of our main duo dodging blows was clean and enhanced by their amazing flight suits. I also love the team up at the end with Cosmobug, Miss Hound, Cat Noir, and Pegasus. It's always fun to see how these heroes can combine their powers. In this case, Cosmobug led Daddycop around Paris and into a portal Pegasus made. There, Miss Hound used her ball on Daddycop's car to not only bring it to them, but to rid him of his main mode of transport, which prevents him from reacting. Finally, Cat Noir cataclysms the car. I know Cat Noir tends to cataclysm the akumatized object to make him seem important, even though it's not always necessary. In this case, I doubt anyone else could break the car and release the Akuma. Overall, this was such a fun episode. It was a great character episode, developed some characters that haven't been too fleshed out, and gave us some amazing animation to look at. This is my favorite episode of the season so far, and I can't wait for Werepapas, as I hear the episode is a great lore episode. Let me know what you guys think of the episode in the comment section below. This is Queen of Penguins saying peace out, and sisters before misters!